Again, I'm amazed at how good this camera is, and yet again I probably am a little closer than I really need to be, but we'll go with it. And this is gonna be a little bit of this and that, and I'm also going to go with how it ended up turning out. I'm just checking the battery here. And it's going to be part of the narrative, and that's all right. And I made two mistakes, essentially, and I'll tell you what I did wrong. So I finished up with the 10th Army here. So I did move over, sorry, the 6th Army, and I did move over some troops from the 10th Corps. I brought over the 7th Artillery Regiment or whatever brigade from here over to here. I now have a total of 12 and brought some over here, and then I've got the 9th Corps that shifted over just a little bit. They brought over the reserve troops over to here. Actually, that's a full-on, who are those guys? They're the 38th Infantry Division. They got moved on over. Wasn't really sure what to do. We're just going to stay here and hope. We'll see what happens. There's a lot of strength points sitting around here with the Austro-Hungarians, but we'll see what happens. Anyways, remember what I said. We did some reconnaissance over here. I did remove the blue thing so you can at least see who I'm attacking here, and it's the Austro-Hungarian Battle Group 32. I checked. It's just a lone cavalry brigade, for goodness sakes. It's the 3rd Carpathian Cavalry Brigade. They only got one strength point, and it's in brackets. And as far as I know, that means they're not allowed to perform attacks, and I don't even know if they're allowed to perform a counterattack, for goodness sakes. Anyways, they have the option to retreat ahead of time because I'm only using infantry. I think they're allowed to still, as long as I don't use cavalry, I think they're still allowed to retreat even if I'm using artillery. Anyways, it won't matter. I'll talk about it, and hopefully I'll go through the whole thing anyways. I'm just checking the battery. Still okay, right on. Anyways, so this is an entrenched position. So what does this mean? And we're going to talk a couple of wrinkles here that I am. Remember, so some of these are going to be official Der Weltkrieg rules, and then I'm going to go off the rails a little bit. So I'm not going to try to say these or whatever. I'll try to do the best I can, but just remember that. Excuse me, I'm still getting over. Sorry, a really nasty cough. And then we got smoke advisory here today. My gosh, for the past couple of days. Anyways, so I have a total of 12 infantry strength points sitting here that are unsupplied. So I'm going to need one supply point for every 4 infantry strength points, and I'm going to need one supply point for every 2 artillery strength points. And lo and behold, this artillery's got 2. And I'm going to show you the 2 mistakes that I made, and I'm going with them. Now the other thing is that I'm only attacking with a Corps HQ. And a Corps HQ in Der Weltkrieg, you're only allowed to use 2 supply points for an attack that turn for that Corps HQ. And it's going to play out nicely in the narrative. I'm also in wintertime, so remember all these little things. So I've got possibly poor communication and control, command and control issues. Of wintertime, I've got an entrenched position. Now we're going to also look at the other things where I was like, oh come on, this should be a gimme. I was like, no, always roll for these type of things. So we're talking a cavalry brigade protecting a 20-kilometer wide front. I mean, I know these are abstract, but you know, still against 4 infantry reserve divisions plus an artillery brigade. Come on, you know, that's ridiculous. So anyways, I went with it anyways in the gimme. So the first thing I'm going to tell you what I did wrong, which I should have clued into, is taking a look at the math a little bit better. Now remember when I said I could only use 2, I've already deducted them. We had 4. So I can only use a total of 2. I unfortunately went and spent 1 supply point, for God's sakes, and I don't even need it for this. You know, sometimes for like specific things, maybe if you're attacking a fortress at certain times. I don't know, like I'm not going to get into the whatevers. I'm just saying it could be potentially needed that type of thing for solid defenses, and we'll talk about that in a minute with the entrenchments, which is a bit different than I'm going with the Weltkrieg. Anyways, that being said, so I wasted 1 supply point, and I could have gotten 4 infantry supply points instead of just the 2 for the artillery, so that sucks. So I ended up actually getting in total only 8 attacking strength points. How's that? Well, 2 for the artillery, and then I'm going to get another 4, and then I'm going to blow another supply point, and that's all I can do. So I've got 4, leaving me a total a remainder of 8 unsupplied infantry supply points, and that's going to be another 4. So what have I got? No, I'll be back to 10, wouldn't I? Hold on here. So I'd get 4, 5, 6. You know, I'd still be at 10. Oh God, I'm an idiot. Oh my God, I'm scary. I'm scary. Okay, let's do this again, Christopher. You've got 12 strength points. You can only supply 4 of them. Remainder of 8. Divided in half because they're unsupplied, that's 4. 4 plus 4 is 8, and you used another one for your 2 supply points, so you're down to 10, which is the same thing. Oh my God. I scare myself. I really do scare myself. Because I have to fully supply artillery. I can't just get 1 supply point thing anyways. My God. Lord have mercy. Well, I'm keeping this video, and this is the way it is. Because I'm going with the narrative and I'm not re-rolling. I should have rolled on a 10, and I'm going to show you the second mistake that I did, which is I should have went with the old CRT, and I went with my new one. And my new one is less effective at this juncture in time. It gets more deadly later. But anyways, mine is a D12. I'd still get a -4. Now why would I get a -4? Because I'm attacking across woods here, if you can see here, and that's a -2 to my die roll. Plus an additional -2 die roll because of the trenches. So that's a -4 to my die roll. You can only get a maximum of a -1 on a CRT in the Der Weltkrieg, no matter how many negative modifiers, which I'm not a big fan of. I think you should really, because for mine, it's like, okay, if you do go below, then you just do a column shift, but not in Der Weltkrieg. Anyways, so let's go with the 10, and I'm going to show you, hopefully you can see it. I'm just trying to look here. There, so there. So no matter what I do, I'm going to get 1 hit. And of course, with the 1 hit, I would force the cavalry to retreat, and I could take that position. Now with mine, it's a -4 on 10, so we'll still go with the 10, and I would need a 7 or higher. So it's so it's a 50-50 shot. Due to the fact that it's a -4, I'd get down to the 1. That would be my, oops, sorry, that'd be the lowest I could get. If you can see there. But anyways, it doesn't, well, anyways, I did roll ahead of time and I blew it. So it's like, well, how in the world could 4 Reserve Infantry Divisions and artillery, it just didn't work. That's the way I'm looking at it for the narrative. It just didn't work. For whatever reason, it was just a bad day at the office for the Russians here, and I'm just going to chalk it up that way, and we're just going to have to bring in more troops, and obviously the Austro-Hungarians, if they do want to keep that position, because they darn well know I'm going to hammer away at it when I can, you know, do that again, which is next turn, which would be like from the 5th to the 7th of January or whatever, 1915, and that's the way we go. I think that's really all I had to talk about, really, I think. So I'm just going with the narrative. I think I would have re-rolled. I probably would have had a half-decent shot, but that's just the way it goes. Yep, so it's not well. So we'll stop there, and then I'm going to go off, like I said, to the 8th Army, and we'll try to retreat back as much as possible. Oh yes, I did want to talk a little bit about the trench differences in Der Weltkrieg and me. So one thing I am deviating a little bit with the Der Weltkrieg one, and hold on, I got to get to the trenches bit, and I'll talk a little bit about it, and maybe I'll zoom out because you don't need to see anything anymore. You can kind of look at the whole thing if you want. I'll even move the camera a little. Maybe you can see a little bit more of the front, perhaps. There you go. I'll even move it up a little. There you go. Well, I just babble away here. You can see a little bit more. It's going to get, ooh, the 4th Army over there is going to be interesting. Anyways, so trenches beginning, yeah, so the big difference right now for me is, like I'm still doing in 1915, that armies quickly learned how to construct simple defensive works in difficult terrain rather quickly. This is 2216 in Der Weltkrieg rules. The effect is still stiffened defense in areas with good defensive terrain. So during 1915, units are not required to retreat unless loss is called for, just like in trenches. are greater than or equal to the total of defending strength points when utilizing defensive terrain, giving them a -3 or better defensive die roll. So, you know, towards the mountains and all that type of stuff. The big difference for me now is that there's a thing called the need for heavy artillery increased as defense is improved. A hex is considered to have a solid defense when it contains a trench marker and at least 5 or the number of infantry strength points equal to a full strength infantry division for each hex side it is attacked through. That's 2219. And then it talks like in 2220, in like, for example, in 1915, 3 artillery strength points are needed on the west front, 2 on other fronts. That's why I would have wanted to have that artillery if I was using the Weltkrieg rules, but I'm not for 1915 right now, for that bit anyways. From what I read, the Eastern Front historically in 1915 did not develop that type of, what did he call it, a stiffened defense or whatever, at this point, at this juncture anyways. And so I'm going with what I know, and that's just the way it is. He calls it a solid defense. So I'm not doing that. The solid defense, sure, it exists on the Western Front, but not in the Eastern Front, not in my world. And that's the way I'm going with it for now. It'll happen maybe later on in 1916 or so on and so forth, but not right now. All right, that's it. And off to go and perhaps start filming the SPI 1914-1918 game there. Oh, for, well, like the Can Games recap thing. All right, see you later. Hope you're having fun.